The late autumn Seattle air carried the familiar scent of rain and coffee as Lauren Bennett guided her daughter through Pacific Place Mall. Emma's small hand was warm in hers, their matching mother-daughter scarves dancing in the climate-controlled breeze. It had been 5 years since she'd last walked these halls, but some things never changed. The gentle murmur of shoppers, the soft piano music drifting from Nordstrom, the way her heart still skipped whenever she caught a whiff of that particular coffee blend. "Mommy, look, they have unicorn books." Emma's excited squeal pulled Lauren from her thoughts. Her daughter's blue-green eyes sparkled as she pointed toward the bookstore's window display, her chestnut curls bouncing with each hop. Lauren smiled, adjusting the professional-looking messenger bag on her shoulder. "We can check them out after Mommy's meeting, Sweet Pea. Remember what we talked about?" "Uh-huh." Emma nodded solemnly, her small face serious. "You have to talk to the other kid doctors about helping more children feel better in their hearts." She placed her tiny hand over her chest, mimicking the gesture Lauren often used with her young patients. Something warm bloomed in Lauren's chest. At 4, Emma already showed such emotional intelligence. Perhaps too much. Sometimes Lauren wondered if her daughter had inherited more than just her therapeutic inclinations. They made their way toward the mall's central atrium, where the Seattle Children's Psychological Association was holding its annual conference. Lauren hadn't planned on attending, hadn't planned on returning to Seattle at all. But Dr. Richardson's invitation to speak about her groundbreaking work with trauma-affected children had been too important to decline. "Ms. Bennett," a familiar voice called out. "Over here." Lauren turned to see Olivia Chen, the conference coordinator, waving from beside a coffee cart. The irony wasn't lost on her. Of all the hundreds of coffee shops in Seattle, they had to meet next to this one. "Just a minute," Lauren called back, kneeling to Emma's level. "Sweetie, we're going to talk to Ms. Olivia for a moment. Remember what we practiced?" Emma straightened her little denim overall dress and nodded. "Best behavior, inside voice, and if I get tired, I can read my special book." Lauren pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead, breathing in the sweet smell of children's shampoo and innocence. "That's my girl." They walked toward Olivia, weaving through the mid-afternoon crowd. Lauren's practical heels clicked against the marble floor, the sound nearly drowned out by the mall's ambient noise. She was reaching for her conference badge when it happened. The sound of shattering ceramic cut through the air. Lauren's head snapped up instinctively and time seemed to freeze. Standing not 10 feet away, surrounded by the remains of what must have been a coffee cup, was Ethan Walker. He looked different, softer somehow, with his dark hair slightly longer than she remembered his former CEO suits replaced by dark jeans and a charcoal Henley. But his eyes, those storm cloud blue eyes that had once held her entire world, were exactly the same. And they were fixed, not on her, but on Emma. Lauren felt her throat close up. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not when she'd finally rebuilt her life from the ashes of what they'd once been. "Mommy?" Emma's voice wavered, picking up on the sudden tension. "Who's that man?" The question hung in the air like smoke, and Lauren watched as every emotion she'd spent 5 years running from crashed across Ethan's face. Recognition, shock, understanding, pain. He took a step forward, coffee forgotten, his eyes darting between Lauren and the little girl who was his mirror image. "Lauren?" His voice was rough, like he'd been drowning for years and had just broken the surface. "Is she—" Lauren's instincts kicked in. Protection mode. The same one that had made her flee Seattle with nothing but a hastily packed bag and a broken heart. She scooped Emma up, despite her being almost too big for such gestures now. "We have to go," she managed to say to Olivia, who stood frozen beside the coffee cart, clearly sensing the magnitude of what was unfolding. "I'm sorry, I can't, I'll email you." "Lauren, wait." Ethan's voice carried the weight of 5 years of questions. "Please." But she was already moving, her heart thundering against her ribs as she carried Emma toward the nearest exit. Her daughter's arms wrapped around her neck, small face pressed against her shoulder. "Mommy?" Emma whispered against her neck. Why are you scared? Lauren's vision blurred with unshed tears as she pushed through the revolving doors into the Seattle. Rain. I'm not scared, baby, she lied. Flags her first cab in 5 years on these streets. Sometimes grown-ups just need a minute to be brave. As the taxi pulled away from the curb, Lauren caught a glimpse of Ethan in the mall's glass doors. One hand pressed against the transparent barrier between them. He looked exactly how she felt, like someone who'd just found something precious only to watch it slip away again. Emma's weight in her arms was both comfort and accusation. 5 years of secrets, of half-truths, of bedtime stories that carefully skirted around the daddy-shaped hole in their lives. All of it threatened to collapse under the weight of a single chance encounter. The rain streaked down the cab's windows, blurring the Seattle skyline into a watercolor of grays and blues. Lauren held Emma closer, knowing with crushing certainty that this time, running wouldn't be enough. Because now Ethan knew, and if she remembered anything about the man she'd left behind, it was this. When Ethan Walker set his mind on something, especially something he loved, he never let go. The taxi turned onto Pike Street, and Lauren closed her eyes, feeling her carefully constructed world begin to unravel. The past, it seemed, had finally caught up with her, bringing with it all the questions she'd never dared to ask, and all the answers she'd never stayed to hear. Ethan Walker stood motionless in Pacific Place Mall long after Lauren and Emma disappeared through the revolving doors. His coffee lay forgotten at his feet, a dark pool spreading across the marble floor like spilled ink, like the words he'd never gotten to say 5 years ago. Sir? A young janitor approached with a mop. Are you okay? The question jarred him back to reality. Okay? He'd just discovered he had a daughter, a beautiful little girl with his curls and Lauren's grace. How could anything ever be okay again? I'm fine, he managed, reaching for his wallet. Let me help clean? Don't worry about it. The janitor waved him off, already working on the spill. Happens all the time. But this wasn't just another spilled coffee. This was the moment his world tilted on its axis for the second time in 5 years. Ethan's feet carried him automatically through the mall's familiar corridors, past his own coffee shop, the morning after, and out into the rain-soaked streets of Seattle. The city hadn't changed much in 5 years, but he had. Gone was the ambitious CEO who measured success in quarterly reports and acquisition deals. In his place stood a man who found peace in the simple art of brewing perfect coffee and writing stories that would never see the light of day. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably Russell, his manager, wondering why he'd abandoned their supplier meeting. Ethan ignored it, letting muscle memory guide him through the wet streets until he found himself standing outside his old office building, 5th and Madison. 72 stories of glass and steel reaching into the cloudy Seattle sky. This was where it had all fallen apart, though he hadn't known it at the time. He could still see Lauren standing in his office doorway that last morning, beautiful in her navy dress, her hand unconsciously resting on her stomach. Pregnant. He now realized with a punch of clarity. She'd brought him lunch, said she loved him. He'd been too busy with acquisition papers to really look at her. The next day, she was gone. One text message. I can't do this anymore. Please don't try to find me. But he had tried. God, how he'd tried. Private investigators, social media searches, calling every hospital and psychology practice on the West Coast. Lauren had vanished like morning mist, leaving him with nothing but questions and a growing suspicion that he'd missed something vital. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. Russell. Where are you? Henderson's asking about the Brazilian shipment. Ethan. Emergency. Personal. Handle it. Russell. Everything okay? Ethan. No, taking the rest of the day. You're in charge. He pocketed his phone and headed toward Pioneer Square, to the one person who might understand what he was feeling. The rain intensified, but Ethan barely noticed. His mind was too full of Emma's curious eyes and Lauren's terrified expression. The sign above the narrow storefront read, Healing Hearts Family Counseling. Dr. Catherine Martinez had been his therapist for the past 4 years, helping him rebuild himself from the ground up after Lauren left. She'd know what to do now. The bell chimed softly as he entered. Catherine looked up from her desk, one glance at his face telling her everything she needed to know. "Cancel my next appointment," she told her receptionist, rising from her desk. "Ethan needs the hour." Inside her office, Ethan sank into the familiar leather chair, running his hands through his rain-dampened hair. "I saw them today," he said, without preamble. "Lauren and my daughter." Catherine's intake of breath was the only indication of her surprise. "Tell me everything." So he did. About the spilled coffee, about Emma's curls that matched his own, about the way Lauren had looked both exactly the same and completely different. "She has to be about 4, he concluded, voice rough. "Which means Lauren was pregnant when she left. She was carrying my child and I never knew. What kind of father doesn't know?" "The kind who wasn't given the chance to know," Catherine said gently. "Ethan, this is a lot to process. What are you feeling right now?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Everything. Nothing. I'm angry. God, I'm so angry she kept this from me. But I'm also—" He swallowed hard. "I'm terrified. I have a daughter, a little girl who's been growing up without me, who doesn't even know I exist. And Lauren, seeing her again, brought everything back. It never left." Ethan stood, pacing the office like a caged animal. "I've spent 5 years trying to understand why she left, replaying every moment, every conversation. I changed everything about my life because I thought maybe she'd been right. Maybe I had been too focused on work, too distant. The coffee shop, the writing, the therapy. It was all about becoming someone worthy of the love she gave me. And now I find out there was so much more at stake." Catherine watched him carefully. "What do you want to do?" "I want answers." Ethan stopped pacing, his resolution crystallizing. "I want to know why she really left. I want to know my daughter. I want—" He closed his eyes, the truth rising up like dawn. "I want my family." "And how do you plan to approach this?" "Carefully. Lauren looked terrified today. If I push too hard, she'll run again." He sank back into the chair. "She's here for some kind of conference, I heard that much. Which means she'll be in Seattle for at least a few days. I can use that time to figure out how to talk to her. And if she refuses to talk?" Ethan's jaw set in a determined line. "She took away 5 years of my daughter's life. I won't let her take away another day. I'll fight for Emma, legally if I have to, but first I need to understand. There has to be more to the story. Lauren wouldn't have left without a reason." "The Lauren you knew wouldn't have," Catherine corrected gently. "But people can surprise us, especially when they're hurt or scared. Whatever her reasons, you need to prepare yourself for difficult truths." "I know." Ethan pulled out his phone, opening the photo gallery to a folder he rarely touched. There she was, Lauren, 5 years younger, laughing at something off camera. He'd taken the photo at Cary Park, the Seattle skyline a backdrop to her joy. But I also need to prepare her for some truths of her own. Like the fact that those messages she found, the ones she thought proved I was having an affair, were about planning our anniversary surprise. Catherine leaned forward. "You never told me about any messages." "Because I never knew about them until months after she left. My assistant finally broke down and told me Lauren had seen their texts about the surprise party and gifts. She assumed—" He shook his head, the irony bitter on his tongue. "She assumed the worst and ran before I could explain, before she could even ask. And now? Now I have a daughter who's never known her father, and the only woman I've ever loved thinks I betrayed her." Ethan stood, his decision made. "It's time for both of us to face the truth. I just hope—" He paused at the office door, his hand on the knob. "I just hope it's not too late to heal what's broken." Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The late afternoon sun broke through, the clouds casting long shadows across Pioneer Square. Ethan walked back toward his coffee shop, his mind already forming plans. He had a family to fight for, and this time, he wouldn't let them slip away. His phone buzzed one last time. A calendar reminder. Tomorrow's morning meeting with the Brazilian coffee suppliers. He opened his contacts, finger hovering over Russell's number, then stopped. 5 years ago, he would have prioritized the meeting. Now he knew better. He typed out a quick message. Cancel all my meetings for the next week. Family emergency. Because that's what this was, an emergency of the heart. 5 years in the making. And this time, Ethan Walker wasn't going to let anything, not work, not pride, not even Lauren's fears, stand in the way of making things right. Emma Bennett Walker. Couldn't sleep. The hotel room's unfamiliar shadows danced across the ceiling, and her mother's quiet crying in the bathroom wasn't as silent as she thought it was. She hugged Mr. Whiskers, her stuffed cat, closer to her chest. The man from the mall kept appearing, in her mind, the one with hair just like hers who looked at her like she was magic. Emma might only be 4, but she wasn't silly. She knew things, important things. Like how her mommy always got sad when Emma asked about her daddy, or how all the other kids at her playgroup had 2 parents, while she only had 1, or how the man today had the same curly hair and crinkly eyes that Emma saw every morning in her mirror. The bathroom door opened, releasing a puff of steam. Her mommy emerged, face freshly washed, wearing her favorite comfort sweater, the oversized, blue one she wore when her heart hurt. Can't sleep, sweet pea? Lauren's voice was gentle as she sat on the edge of Emma's bed. Emma shook her head. Mommy, was that man my daddy? The sharp intake of breath told Emma everything. Her mommy's hands trembled as she tucked the hotel blanket tighter around her. Why do you think that? Lauren asked carefully. Because he looks like me. And because your heart got all jumpy when you saw him, like in the stories where the princess sees her true love again. Lauren's laugh was watery. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? Grandma says I get that from you. Emma sat up, her chestnut curls wild from tossing and turning. Is that why we're not going to your doctor meeting tomorrow? We are going, Lauren said, surprising herself with the decision. Mommy can't run away from important things just because she's scared. What are you scared of? Lauren gathered Emma into her arms, breathing in the sweet smell of baby shampoo and innocence. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes because they're afraid of getting hurt. And sometimes those mistakes hurt other people too. Did you make a mistake with my daddy? The question hung in the air like delicate glass. Lauren closed her eyes, remembering the look on Ethan's face today, the shock, the pain, the love that still lingered after all these years. Yes, baby. I think I did. Emma pulled back, her small face serious. Then you should fix it, like how you help your little patients fix their sad feelings. Lauren's throat tightened. When had her daughter become so wise? It's not that simple, sweet pea. Why not? Because... Lauren stopped, realizing she didn't have a good answer. Because she was scared? Because she'd spent 5 years building walls around their little world? Because facing Ethan meant facing the possibility that she'd been wrong? Knock at the door made them both jump. Lauren glanced at the clock. 9:47 p.m. Who would be knocking at this hour? She moved to the peephole, her heart stuttering when she saw Olivia Chen standing in the hallway. She opened the door cautiously. Olivia? The conference coordinator looked apologetic. I'm so sorry to disturb you this late, Lauren. But after what happened today, I thought you should know. He's registered for the conference. What? Lauren's fingers tightened on the doorframe. Ethan Walker. He called an hour ago, registered as a potential investor in children's mental health programs. Olivia handed her a folder. He's scheduled to attend your keynote speech tomorrow. Lauren's legs went weak. Of course he was. Ethan had always been brilliant at strategy, at finding ways to make things happen. Mommy? Emma called from inside. Who is it? Just Ms. Olivia from the conference, sweet pea, go back to bed. But Emma was already padding to the door in her unicorn pajamas, curiosity brightening her eyes. "Are you talking about the man from the mall? My daddy?" Olivia's eyes widened, darting between Lauren and Emma. Oh my God. Lauren, I had no idea." "It's complicated," Lauren managed. "Thank you for letting me know, Olivia." After closing the door, Lauren sank onto the edge of her bed, the folder heavy in her hands. Emma climbed into her lap, small fingers tracing the conference logo. "Are you going to run away again?" Emma's voice was small. Lauren looked down at her daughter, this precious, perceptive child who somehow understood more than any 4-year-old should. She thought about Ethan's face today, about the 5 years of silence, about all the questions she'd been too afraid to ask. "No, baby, no more running. Promise?" "Promise." Lauren kissed Emma's forehead. "But right now you need to sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a big day." As Emma finally drifted off in the other bed, Lauren opened her laptop. The email she'd been avoiding for hours glowed on the screen. From Dr. Catherine Martinez. Subject: a bridge, not a wall. "Lauren, you don't know me, but I've spent the last 4 years helping Ethan understand what happened between you two. He's not the same man you left. The messages you found, they weren't what you thought. He was planning a surprise for your anniversary. The secrecy, the meetings with his assistant, the gift discussions. It was all for you. I'm breaking every therapeutic confidence telling you this, but seeing you today broke something in him that took years to repair. He has a right to know his daughter, and you have a right to know the truth. He'll be at your speech tomorrow. Please, give him 10 minutes, that's all he's asking for. You've both spent 5 years building walls. Maybe it's time to build a bridge instead. Dr. Catherine Martinez." Lauren closed the laptop, her vision blurring. The messages, the ones that had confirmed her worst fears, had been about an anniversary surprise. She'd spent 5 years convinced Ethan had betrayed her, had run away with their unborn child rather than face the truth. But what if she'd been running from a lie? Across the room, Emma murmured in her sleep, one small hand clutching Mr. Whiskers. Lauren watched, her daughter, their daughter, and felt the walls she'd built begin to crack. Tomorrow she would give the speech of her career about helping children heal from emotional trauma. Tomorrow she would face the man she'd never stopped loving. Tomorrow she would finally have to answer for the choices she'd made. Lauren reached for her phone, opening the photo album she kept hidden in a locked folder. There he was, Ethan, 5 years younger, laughing as he tried to teach her how to make the perfect cup of coffee in their kitchen. She'd been terrible at it, but he'd never given up. She typed out a text, then deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, just before midnight, she sent 3 words to the number she'd never forgotten. 10 minutes. Tomorrow. The response came immediately. Thank you. Lauren lay back on her hotel bed, listening to Emma's soft breathing and the distant hum of Seattle traffic. Tomorrow would change everything. She just hoped she was strong enough to face whatever truths came with the dawn. The Seattle Children's Psychological Association conference room buzzed with anticipation. Lauren stood backstage, smoothing her cream silk blouse for the 100th time. Through the curtain she could hear the morning crowd settling in, nearly 300 child psychologists, researchers, and potential program investors, and somewhere out there sat Ethan Walker. "Mommy, your hands are shaking." Emma sat cross-legged on a chair beside her, wearing her favorite denim dress and rainbow tights. The conference organizers had arranged for a childminder, but Emma had clung to Lauren with unusual determination this morning. "Just nervous about my speech, sweet pea." Lauren knelt down, adjusting Emma's sparkly headband. "Remember what we talked about? Mrs. Wilson is going to take you to the children's area during Mommy's talk." Emma's lower lip trembled. But what if he comes looking for me? Lauren's heart clenched. Her daughter's perception was sometimes terrifying. Ethan won't do anything to scare you, I promise." "I'm not scared." Emma's chin lifted in a gesture so reminiscent of Ethan that Lauren's breath caught. I just want to know if his eyes crinkle when he smiles, like mine do. Before Lauren could respond, Olivia appeared with a tablet in hand. 5 minutes, Dr. Bennett, and he's here, 3rd row, center section. Lauren's pulse jumped. How does he look? Like a man who hasn't slept. Olivia's expression softened. He brought something, a gift bag from his coffee shop. Of course, he had. The morning after was one of Seattle's most talked about independent cafes. Lauren had discovered its existence during her conference research, had spent hours staring at the website photos of the rustic interior, the wall of books, the community board filled with local events. It was everything corporate Ethan had once dismissed as impractical, and everything the man she'd fallen in love with had secretly dreamed of creating. Dr. Bennett? A new voice, Mrs. Wilson, the childminder, a grandmotherly woman with kind eyes. Shall I take Emma now? Lauren hugged her daughter close, breathing in her familiar sweet scent. Be good for Mrs. Wilson, okay? Mommy's talk is only 45 minutes. Emma's small arms tightened around her neck. Can I meet him after? Please? The question Lauren had been dreading. She pulled back, brushing Emma's curls from her face. We'll see, sweet pea. First, let Mommy talk to him alone. After Emma reluctantly left with Mrs. Wilson, Lauren took her position behind the curtain. Her presentation materials were ready. Slides chronicling 5 years of breakthrough work with traumatized children, research that had earned her national recognition. But none of those accomplishments seemed to matter now. Not with Ethan, sitting feet away, not with the weight of 5 years of secrets pressing down on her. Please welcome our keynote speaker. The conference director's voice boomed through the speakers. Dr. Lauren Bennett, whose groundbreaking work in childhood trauma recovery has revolutionized our field. The spotlight hit her as she walked onto the stage. Lauren's professional smile was automatic, her opening lines practiced. But then she saw him. Ethan sat exactly where Olivia had indicated, his presence magnetic even in stillness. He'd dressed formally, charcoal suit, blue tie that matched his eyes. But it was his expression that caught her. Raw hunger, as if he were memorizing every detail of her. Their eyes met. The world tilted. Lauren's carefully prepared speech faltered for a fraction of a second. Then, drawing on years of professional practice, she forced her attention to the wider audience. Childhood trauma, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart, doesn't just affect the mind. It reshapes reality. It builds walls where there should be bridges. As practitioners, we often focus on helping children tear down these walls. But today, I want to talk about something equally important, helping them build better ones. The moi. Words took on new meaning as she spoke them. Every principle she taught about trust, about communication, about facing fears, seemed to mock her own choices. Children learn their relationship patterns from us, she continued, hyper-aware of Ethan's unwavering gaze. They learn how to trust, how to love, how to forgive, or how to run from all three. The question isn't whether they're watching us, but what they're learning from what they see. The presentation progressed smoothly, but beneath her professional exterior, Lauren's emotions churned. She clicked through slides showing brain scans, therapy techniques, success stories, all while fighting the urge to look at Ethan, to run from the stage, to grab Emma and disappear again. Then came the audience questions. Lauren's stomach dropped as Ethan's hand rose. The conference director nodded to him. Yes, Mr. Walker? Dr. Bennett. His voice, deep and controlled, sent shivers down her spine. Your research emphasizes the importance of confronting past trauma rather than avoiding it. How do you advise parents who might be protecting their children from difficult truths? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Lauren's hands gripped the podium. Protection, she said carefully, meeting his eyes, can sometimes become prison. When we shield children from truth out of fear, we risk teaching them that fear is stronger than love. That running is better than staying. That silence is safer than questions. Her voice softened. Sometimes the greatest protection we can offer is the courage to face our own mistakes. Something shifted in Ethan's expression. Recognition, perhaps, or hope. The rest of the Q&A passed in a blur. As the audience applauded and began to disperse, Lauren remained rooted to the stage, watching Ethan stand and move toward her with determined grace. "Lauren." He stopped at the edge of the stage, looking up at her with those devastating eyes. 10 minutes, remember?" She nodded, unable to speak. "My shop's 2 blocks away. It's closed for renovations today. We'll have privacy." He held up the gift bag. "I brought your favorite. Double-shot vanilla latte, extra hot, no foam. Some things I never forgot." "Ethan, please." The word carried 5 years of longing. "Just coffee. Just talk. That's all I'm asking for." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted from the back of the auditorium. Emma had somehow slipped away from Mrs. Wilson and was running down the center aisle, her little legs pumping, curls flying. "Emma, wait!" Lauren called, but her daughter was already halfway to the stage. She watched in frozen panic as Emma stopped, directly in front of Ethan, tilting her head back to study him with those matching eyes. "Do your eyes crinkle when you smile?" she demanded, hands on her tiny hips. "Because mine do, and Mommy says I got them from my daddy." The gift bag slipped from Ethan's fingers, coffee cups tumbling onto the carpet. He dropped to one knee, bringing himself to Emma's level, and smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face and, yes, crinkled the corners of his eyes exactly like their daughter's. "They sure do, little one," he managed, voice rough with emotion. "They sure do." Lauren's legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of the stage, watching her carefully constructed walls crumble as her past and present collided in a single, perfect smile. The morning after coffee shop was nothing like Lauren had imagined. Gone were the sleek lines and corporate minimalism of Ethan's past. Instead, warmth radiated from exposed brick walls lined with overflowing bookshelves, mismatched vintage armchairs, clustered around reclaimed wood tables, and local artists' work hung in elegant frames. Emma ran straight to a children's corner filled with stuffed animals and picture books, her earlier shyness forgotten. "Look, Mommy, they have Franklin the turtle." "Your favorite when you were little," Ethan said softly, and Lauren's head snapped up. He smiled sadly. "I remember you telling me about reading those books as a kid. When I opened this place, I made sure to stock them." The weight of everything he'd carried, every memory, every lost moment, hung heavy in the air between them. "Mrs. Wilson can watch her here," he continued, gesturing to where the childminder had followed them in. "The staff break room has a perfect view of the reading corner." Lauren nodded, her throat tight. "Emma, Sweet Pea, Mommy, and your daddy need to talk. Mrs. Wilson will stay with you, okay?" Emma looked up from her book, those intelligent eyes moving between them. "Are you going to fix the mistake now?" "We're going to try," Ethan answered before Lauren could, and something in his voice made Emma smile. "Good, because you look at Mommy the same way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella." Lauren felt her cheeks flush as Ethan led her upstairs to a small office overlooking Pike Street. The space was warm, lived in, more like a library study than a CEO's domain. A leather armchair sat beneath a window, and on the desk, her breath caught. There, in a simple silver frame, sat a photo she remembered taking. Ethan at Cary Park, laughing as the wind messed up his perfectly styled hair. She'd teased him about finally looking human instead of corporate. 5 years, Ethan said quietly, closing the door. 5 years of wondering if you were safe, if you were happy. 5 years of missing you so much it felt like drowning. He moved to a small coffee station in the corner. And all this time I had a daughter. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, but Lauren forced them out. When I saw those messages with your assistant about the surprise party. Ethan's hands were steady as he prepared 2 cups of coffee. The private dinner reservation, the custom jewelry piece I'd commissioned. God, Lauren, I was going to tell you about the Tokyo expansion over dessert, ask you to come with me. He turned, offering her a cup. Instead, you disappeared. No confrontation. No chance to explain. Just gone. Lauren accepted the coffee. inhaling the familiar scent of vanilla and memories. I was scared. Hormonal. My father's affair with his assistant destroyed my family when I was 12. When I saw those messages about secret meetings, private dinners, she swallowed hard. I couldn't bear to hear you say the words. Couldn't bear to see pity in your eyes, so I ran. With our child. There was no accusation in his voice, only pain. Lauren, how could you think I wouldn't want her? That I wouldn't move heaven and earth to be her father? Because the Ethan I knew lived for his career. Corner office, global expansion, 60-hour weeks. She gestured around the office. Not this. This? A hint of his old smile touched his lips. This is who I always was beneath the suits and spreadsheets. You knew that better than anyone. He moved to the window, looking out at the busy street below. When you left, it broke something in me. Made me question everything. Dr. Martinez helped me realize I'd been living someone else's dream. My father's vision of success. So you opened a coffee shop. I opened a home. He turned back to her. A place where people connect, where stories matter more than stock prices. Every morning I make coffee and think about how you used to burn it. Every time a young mom comes in with a baby, I wonder if you were showing then, if you were scared, if you had someone to hold your hand. Through morning sickness and cravings, Lauren's eyes burned. I had my mom. She's the only one who knew about Emma's father. She wanted me to tell you, but you were protecting your heart. Ethan set his coffee down and moved closer, close enough that she could smell his familiar cologne. Lauren, I need to know, did you ever love me enough to fight for us? Or was it easier to believe I'd betrayed you? I loved you so much it terrified me. The truth spilled out like water through cracked glass. Every morning I see you in Emma's smile. Every time she laughs, I hear your voice. I've spent 5 years running from how much I still... She stopped, pressing her lips together. Still what? His voice was hoarse. Say it, Lauren. After 5 years, don't we deserve the truth? Still love you, she whispered. God help me, Ethan, I never stopped. He closed his eyes, swaying slightly as if her words had physical weight. When he opened them again, they were bright with unshed tears. Then let me be her father. Let me be in her life, in both your lives. Not to pick up where we left off, but to build something new, something honest. A small noise from the doorway made them both turn. Emma stood there, Mr. Whiskers clutched to her chest, Mrs. Wilson hovering apologetically behind her. I'm sorry, the childminder started. She was so quick. But Emma was already moving straight to Ethan. She looked up at him with those matching eyes and asked, If you're my daddy, does that mean you'll read me stories? Real daddy stories, with all the funny voices? Ethan knelt down and Lauren saw his hands trembling as he reached out to smooth their daughter's wild curls. Every story you want, princess. Every voice you can imagine. Promise? Cross my heart. Emma studied him with that serious expression Lauren knew so well. Then, with the simple acceptance only a child could offer, she climbed into his lap and opened her book. Start with Franklin. He's scared of the dark like me sometimes. Lauren watched as Ethan gathered their daughter close, his voice breaking slightly as he began to read. 5 years of missed bedtime stories, of lost moments and silent prayers, wrapped up in one perfect scene. She sank into the leather armchair, cradling her cooling coffee, and let herself imagine a future where Emma's eyes would crinkle with joy at the sight of both her parents. Where bedtime stories would have all the funny voices, where mistakes could be forgiven and love could be brave enough to stay. Outside the window, Seattle's eternal rain had finally stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds, casting warm shadows across the office floor, across their new beginning. The next few days passed in a blur of stolen moments and careful negotiations. Lauren had extended her stay in Seattle, calling her practice back home to reschedule appointments. Her mother's knowing "I told you so" still rang in her ears from their late-night phone conversation. Now, sitting in a private booth at the morning after during the quiet afternoon lull, Lauren watched Emma teaching Ethan the proper way to have a tea party with Mr. Whiskers. "No, Daddy, you have to hold your pinky up," Emma demonstrated with her hot chocolate, which Ethan had topped with extra marshmallows and a sprinkle of cinnamon. "That's what makes it fancy." "Oh, of course." Ethan solemnly raised his pinky while sipping imaginary tea from a tiny plastic cup. "Like this, Princess?" "Perfect," Emma beamed, then turned to Lauren. "Mommy, Daddy does better voices than you. His bear voice is really growly." Lauren smiled, ignoring the bittersweet ache in her chest. 3 days. It had taken only 3 days for Emma to bloom under Ethan's attention, for the man from the mall to become daddy with all the fierce devotion a 4-year-old could muster. "We need to talk about what happens next," Lauren said softly. After Emma became absorbed in drawing with the special crayons Ethan kept behind the counter for young customers. Ethan's expression tightened. "You're not taking her away again." "No," Lauren assured him quickly. "But our lives aren't in Seattle, Ethan. I have a practice, Emma has her preschool, we have a home. I'll move." The words came without hesitation. "The morning after is successful enough to expand. I can open a second location, transfer management of this one to Russell." Lauren stared at him. "You'd leave Seattle? Just like that? For Emma? For a chance to be her father?" His eyes met hers, intense and unwavering. "For a chance to prove to you that I'm not the same workaholic you left? I'd move mountains, Lauren, let alone cities." "And what about us?" The question that had been hovering between them since their first conversation. Ethan reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "That's up to you. I know we can't go back to who we were. Too much has happened. But maybe—" He glanced at Emma, who was now drawing what appeared to be a family portrait. "Maybe we can go forward instead." Before Lauren could respond, the bell above the door chimed. Dr. Martinez walked in, her presence both expected and nerve-wracking. They'd arranged this meeting yesterday, agreeing that professional guidance might help navigate these uncharted waters. "Well," Catherine said, sliding into their booth with a warm smile for Emma, "this is certainly better than our usual office, Ethan." Emma looked up from her drawing. "Are you Daddy's feeling doctor? He told me you helped him not be sad anymore." "That's right, sweetheart. And now I'm here to help your mommy and Daddy figure out the best way to be a family." Lauren felt Ethan's hand tighten around hers as Catherine pulled out a notebook. "Let's start with the immediate concerns," the therapist suggested. "Lauren, you mentioned your practice back home. Ethan, you're talking about moving. These are major life changes that need careful consideration." "I can't ask him to give up everything," Lauren protested. "You're not asking," Ethan countered. "I'm choosing, the same way you chose our daughter over everything else 5 years ago." Catherine held up a hand. "Before we discuss logistics, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Lauren, you're showing signs of anticipatory anxiety. What are you really afraid of?" Lauren's throat tightened as Emma climbed into her lap, somehow sensing her mother's distress. I'm afraid of trusting this, of believing in it. Last time I thought we had everything, I convinced myself it was a lie." "And Ethan?" Catherine turned to him. "What's your fear?" "That she'll run again." His voice was rough. "That I'll wake up one morning and they'll both be gone. That I'll miss more first days, more birthdays, more—" He swallowed hard. "More everything." Emma looked between them, her small face serious. "Is that why you keep taking pictures of me and Mommy with your phone, Daddy? So you won't forget?" The simple observation cracked something in the air. Lauren felt tears spill down her cheeks as Ethan pulled out his phone, showing them his gallery. Dozens of snapshots from the past 3 days. Emma reading in the children's corner. Lauren laughing over spilled coffee. Their daughter's first attempt at barista work, standing on a step stool while Ethan guided her hands on the steam wand. "I don't want to miss anything else," he said softly. "Not a single moment." Catherine made a note in her book. "What I'm hearing is mutual fear of loss, but also deep commitment to making this work. The question is, How do we build trust while respecting boundaries? Baby steps, Lauren found herself saying. Maybe we start with weekends. Emma and I can come to Seattle every other weekend while we figure out the logistics. You can come visit us on the alternate weekends. We can use video calls every night for bedtime stories. And holidays together, Ethan added quickly. All of them. Christmas is in 7 months. I want to be there when she opens her presents. Speaking of presents, Emma interrupted, holding up her drawing. Look, I drew us all at Daddy's coffee shop. See? That's Mr. Whiskers drinking hot chocolate, and Mommy with her vanilla coffee, and Daddy with his special bean machine. Lauren leaned into Ethan's side as they examined the crayon masterpiece. Their daughter had drawn them all holding hands, stick figures with enormous smiles and, yes, crinkly eyes. Oh, and look, Emma pointed proudly. I drew Daddy's special necklace too. Lauren froze. What necklace, Sweet Pea? Emma bounced excitedly. The one in the blue box in his desk. I saw it when I was exploring. It's pretty, with lots of sparkly bits and… Emma Grace, Ethan interrupted gently, but his ears had turned red. Remember what we said about grown-up private things? Lauren turned to him slowly. Ethan, what's she talking about? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture she remembered well. I may still have the anniversary gift I never got to give you. The one your mother helped me design with birthstones for both our birth months and space for… He cleared his throat. Space for future editions. Catherine closed her notebook with a knowing smile. And on that note, I think my work here is done for today. Shall we schedule our next session for next week? Perhaps at my office this time? But Lauren barely heard her. She was too busy staring at Ethan, at the man who had kept her anniversary gift for 5 years, who had filled his coffee shop with her favorite books, who looked at their daughter like she was every dream he'd never dared to voice. You really never gave up on us, did you? She whispered. Ethan reached out, brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. Never could. Never will. Emma squirmed between them, wrapping one arm around each of their necks. See? Just like my drawing. All together. Outside, Seattle's afternoon light filtered through the coffee shop's windows, casting warm shadows across their booth. Behind the counter, Russell was teaching a new barista the perfect milk steaming technique. Life went on around them, normal and extraordinary all at once. And in their private corner, surrounded by the scent of coffee and new beginnings, a family that had been broken by fear started to heal through trust, one careful moment at a time. Baby steps, Lauren repeated, holding Emma close while reaching for Ethan's hand. But this time, we take them together. The call came at 3 a.m., jolting Lauren from sleep in her hotel room. Emma's fever had spiked suddenly, her small body burning against Lauren's side. Mommy, Emma whimpered, clutching Mr. Whiskers. My throat hurts really bad. Lauren's heart raced as she felt her daughter's forehead. Too hot. Way too hot. In their rush to extend their Seattle stay, she hadn't thought to ask about local pediatricians. Back home, she would have called Dr. Martinez, not Catherine, but Maria Martinez, Emma's doctor since birth. Her fingers moved on instinct, dialing. Ethan's number. He answered on the first ring. Lauren? What's wrong? Emma's sick. Her voice cracked. High fever, sore throat. I don't know any doctors here and the hotel clinic is closed and… I'm already on my way. She heard keys jingling. A door closing. There's a 24-hour pediatric urgent care center near Swedish Medical. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Pack a small bag. Lauren cradled Emma, who had started crying softly, while throwing essentials into her purse. True to his word, Ethan arrived in exactly 10 minutes, still wearing his sleep clothes under a hastily thrown-on coat. The moment he saw Emma's flushed face, his controlled expression cracked. Oh, princess. He reached for her, and Emma went willingly into his arms. Daddy's got you. The drive to urgent care was tense, filled with Emma's quiet whimpers and Lauren's worried glances at the rearview mirror. Ethan drove one-handed, his other hand reached back to hold Emma's small fingers. "I should have been more careful," Lauren whispered. She was tired yesterday, but I thought it was just excitement from all the changes. "Hey." Ethan's voice was gentle. "Kids get sick. It happens. What matters is we're handling it together." The urgent care waiting room was mercifully empty. As Lauren filled out paperwork, Ethan paced with Emma in his arms, humming softly. The same lullaby Lauren's mother used to sing, the one Lauren had sung to Emma as a baby. "You remember that song?" she asked, surprised. "I remember everything. About those nights we talked about having kids." His eyes met hers over Emma's curls. "How you said you'd sing your mom's lullabies, how I promised to learn them all." Emma stirred against his chest. "Daddy makes pretty music at his coffee house too. He has a big piano that plays soft songs." Lauren blinked back tears. Of course, he had a piano now. Music had always been his secret passion, carefully hidden beneath corporate suits and boardroom presentations. The doctor who examined Emma was wonderfully patient, explaining that it was likely strep throat. As she wrote out prescriptions and care instructions, Emma refused to let go of either parent's hand. Both Mom and Dad should monitor her temperature, the doctor advised, smiling at their united front. Alternate Tylenol and ibuprofen, plenty of fluids. The antibiotics will help, but she'll be contagious for 24 hours. No preschool or public places. "She can stay at my place," Ethan said immediately. "I have a guest room and the apartment above the coffee shop is quiet. I can work from home." "Our hotel room is too small," Lauren found herself agreeing. "And she needs space to rest properly." Emma's eyes lit up despite her fever. "A sleepover at Daddy's house?" The drive to Ethan's apartment was surreal. Lauren sat in the back with Emma while Ethan stopped at an all-night pharmacy, returning, with medications, juice, popsicles, and a new stuffed animal, a little coffee-colored bear wearing a barista apron. His apartment surprised her. Like the coffee shop below, it was warm and lived in, with books everywhere and a baby grand piano taking pride of place near floor-to-ceiling windows. But what caught her breath were the photographs on the walls. Dozens of them, artistic, black and whites of Seattle life. Couples sharing coffee, children playing in parks, elderly pairs walking hand in hand. "You took these?" she asked, recognizing his eye for composition. "Photography class." He shrugged, carrying Emma to the guest room, part of the whole finding myself journey after everything. The guest room was already partially decorated for a child, with a nightlight casting star patterns on the ceiling and a bookshelf full of children's titles. "I've been preparing," he admitted, catching her questioning look. "For when you both visited, I wanted her to have her own space here." They worked in quiet synchronization, giving Emma medicine, setting up a humidifier, taking her temperature. When she finally drifted off to sleep, they found themselves in Ethan's kitchen, the dawn light starting to peek through the windows. "I'll make coffee," he offered, reaching for his professional-grade machine. "Wait." Lauren caught his arm. "That song you were humming earlier, you really learned all of them? All the lullabies I talked about?" His hand stilled on the coffee grinder. "Lauren, I learned everything you ever mentioned wanting for our future children. I learned to cook mac and cheese 6 different ways, because you said it would be your go-to comfort food for sick kids. I bought that piano because you talked about wanting our children to grow up with music in the house." He turned to face her. "Even when you were gone, I couldn't stop preparing to be the father you always believed I could be." Lauren moved closer, drawn by the raw honesty in his voice. "You're already an amazing father, Ethan. The way you handled tonight, I've never felt less alone in taking care of her. You're not alone anymore." His hand came up to cup her cheek. "Neither of you are." A small noise from the guest room made them jump apart. Emma stood in the doorway, fever-flushed but smiling, slightly. "Can we have a family sick day?" she asked hopefully. "With movies and soup and Daddy's piano songs?" Lauren looked at Ethan, saw her own answer reflected in his eyes. "Of course, sweet pea, Daddy will call his manager." Already texting Russell, Ethan said, pulling out his phone. The shop can handle one day without me. They ended up on Ethan's oversized couch, Emma tucked between them with her new bear, promptly named Mocha, and Mr. Whiskers sharing her pillow. Ethan played soft melodies on the piano between doses of medicine. Lauren made her mother's secret recipe chicken soup from ingredients she found perfectly stocked in Ethan's kitchen. "You know," Emma said during a quiet moment, her voice hoarse but happy, "being sick isn't so bad when you have both a mommy and a daddy to make it better." Lauren met Ethan's eyes over their daughter's head, seeing her own revelation mirrored there. This moment of shared worry and care, of midnight drives and fever checks, of lullabies and soup, this was what they'd been missing. Not just the happy moments, but the scared ones too. The real ones. The ones that turned 3 separate lives into a family. As Emma drifted off again, Lauren felt Ethan's hand find hers behind the couch cushions. Outside, Seattle's eternal rain tapped against the windows, a gentle accompaniment to their daughter's steady breathing. Sometimes she realized it took a fever to break more than just illness. Sometimes it took a crisis to show you exactly where you belonged. Emma's fever had broken, but another kind of storm was brewing. Lauren sat in Dr. Martinez's office, the custody agreement draft trembling in her hands. Across the room, Ethan paced like a caged lion, his shoulders tight with tension. "I'm not agreeing to this." His voice was controlled, but Lauren heard the undertone of fear. "Every other weekend isn't enough. I've missed 4 years of her life, Lauren. 4 birthdays, 4 Christmases, 4 first days of school. Which is exactly why we need to take this slowly." Lauren stood, her own emotions rising. Emma's entire world has changed in 2 weeks. She needs stability, routine. She needs her father. The outburst hung in the air between them. Dr. Martinez leaned forward in her chair, her expression calm despite the tension crackling through her office. "Let's take a step back," she suggested. "Ethan, express your fears without accusation. Lauren, listen without defending." Ethan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Lauren now recognized as his attempt to regain control. "Every morning," he began, his voice rougher than usual, "I wake up terrified that yesterday was a dream, that I'll go downstairs to open the shop and there won't be Emma's drawings on my fridge or her special hot chocolate mug behind the counter or—" he swallowed hard, "or the sound of both of you laughing over breakfast." Lauren's throat tightened. The past 2 weeks had created a routine none of them had planned. After Emma's illness, it had seemed natural to extend their hotel checkout, to spend mornings at the morning after, to let their daughter experience having both parents in the same space. "I understand that fear," she said softly. "But Ethan, our lives aren't here. Emma's preschool, my practice, our home. Then let me move there. I told you I can open a second location. It's not that simple." Lauren's composure cracked. "You have a life here, a successful business, a community. I can't let you uproot everything for us. What if—" She wrapped her arms around herself. "What if it doesn't work? What if we try and fail and Emma gets hurt worse than before?" Understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes. "You're not protecting Emma from change," he said quietly. "You're protecting yourself from hoping." Before Lauren could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. Catherine's assistant entered with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry, but there's a situation at the coffee shop. Emma's quite upset." Lauren and Ethan moved as one, parental instincts, overriding their conflict. They found Emma in the morning after's children's corner, curled into a tight ball with Mr. Whiskers and Mocha clutched to her chest. Russell hovered nearby, looking distressed. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly. She was drawing happily, then saw a family outside, mom, dad, and kids all together. She just broke down. Ethan reached for Emma, but for the first time she pulled away. "Princess?" His voice cracked. "What's wrong?" "You're fighting." Emma's accusation struck them both like lightning. "I heard you on the phone last night, Daddy. You were mad about papers and visits, and Mommy was crying in the bathroom this morning." She looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. Is it because I got sick? Did I make everything bad? No, baby, no. Lauren dropped to her knees beside their daughter. Nothing is your fault. Then why can't we stay? Why do you want to take me away from Daddy again? The question pierced Lauren's heart. She felt Ethan kneel beside her, his presence both comforting and challenging. Emma, sweetheart, he began, but their daughter wasn't finished. I drew this. She thrust a crumpled paper at them. For my forever wish. Lauren smoothed out the drawing. With trembling fingers, Emma had depicted 3 scenes. One of her and Lauren in their old home looking sad, one of Ethan alone in his coffee shop, also sad, and one of all 3 of them together, surrounded by coffee cups and music notes, with huge smiles and, yes, crinkly eyes. See? Emma pointed to the 3rd scene. That's my wish. All of us happy, no more crying in bathrooms or sad phone calls. Just family. Lauren felt tears spill down her cheeks as Ethan's hand found hers behind Emma's back. I have an idea, he said suddenly, but it's a big one. Really big. Lauren recognized that tone, the one he used to get when a brilliant business solution struck him. What are you thinking? The building next door is for sale. Prime location, historical. Architecture. What if we didn't choose between your practice and my coffee shop? What if we combined them? What do you mean? The morning after on the ground floor, your psychology practice on the 2nd floor, the top floor. His eyes held hers. The top floor could be home, all of us together. Not just every other weekend, not just holidays, every day. A family building. Emma's tears turned to excitement. Like my drawing. Lauren's mind raced. It was crazy, impulsive, completely unlike the careful plans they'd been making. But my lease is up in 3 months, she heard herself saying. And I've always wanted to expand into family therapy. Russell can manage this location, Ethan continued, warming to the idea. We'll create something new, something that combines both our dreams. A place where people find comfort in coffee and conversation, and healing in therapy and understanding. The morning after Family Center, Emma declared with 4-year-old certainty. For fixing broken hearts with coffee and love. Lauren looked around the coffee shop, at the walls of books, the community board full of local events, the corner where Emma had spent hours drawing her dreams. Then at Ethan, who had transformed himself from corporate CEO to community cornerstone, who had spent 5 years preparing for a family he wasn't sure he'd ever have. We'd need permits, she said slowly. Renovations. Time to transfer my patients. Is that a yes? Ethan's eyes lit with hope. That's a convince me more over dinner, Lauren replied, feeling a smile tug at her lips. A proper dinner with all 3 of us where we talk about this seriously. With ice cream after? Emma asked hopefully. With ice cream after, Ethan confirmed, pulling them both into his arms. And Princess? No more worrying about grown-up problems, that's our job. Promise you'll fix them, really fix them? Lauren met Ethan's gaze over their daughter's curls. We promise to try, sweet pea. Every day. Outside, Seattle's afternoon light painted the street gold, turning puddles into mirrors that reflected the sky. Through the coffee shop windows, Lauren could see the building next door, old brick and potential waiting to be transformed. Like them, Dr. Martinez's custody agreement lay forgotten in her office. Sometimes, Lauren realized, the best solutions weren't found in legal papers or careful plans. Sometimes they were found in children's drawings in coffee shops and in the courage to build something new from the pieces of what was broken. 3 months could change everything. Lauren stood in the empty building next door to the morning, after autumn sunlight streaming through newly cleaned windows. The space echoed with possibility, and the sounds of Emma's footsteps as she explored every corner. Mommy, look, Emma called from the staircase. The steps make magic sounds. The wooden stairs did indeed creak musically, each step a different note. Ethan appeared behind Lauren, hard hat in hand from his meeting with the contractors. "The building inspector says the bones are solid," he said, his voice warm with excitement. "We'll need to update the wiring and plumbing, but structurally, she's perfect." Lauren ran her hand along an exposed brick wall, feeling the history beneath her fingers. "It feels right, doesn't it, like it's been waiting for us?" "Like coming home," Ethan agreed, then hesitated. "Speaking of home, I found something while packing up my apartment. Something I think it's finally time to show you." He pulled a small blue velvet box from his pocket, the one Emma had discovered in his desk months ago. Lauren's heart stuttered. "Ethan, it's not what you think," he said quickly. "Well, it was, originally. But now it's something else. Something more." He opened the box. Inside lay not just the anniversary necklace Emma had mentioned, but a collection of tiny charms. A coffee cup, a golden key, a miniature book, and a delicate heart wrapped in what looked like protective wings. "Each one represents a piece of our story," Ethan explained, touching each charm. "The coffee for where we began and where we found each other again. The key for our new home. The book for all the stories we'll write together. And the heart." He swallowed. "The heart is wrapped in wings because sometimes love needs to fly away to find its way back stronger." Lauren felt tears spill down her cheeks as Ethan lifted the necklace. "May I?" She nodded, turning so he could fasten it around her neck. The charm settled against her collarbone, warm and weighted with meaning. "I've been adding to it over the years," he admitted. "Each time I missed you, each time I hoped, I'd find another charm that told our story." "Daddy!" Emma's voice echoed from upstairs. "Come see. There's a special room up here with big windows. It looks like a princess tower." They climbed the stairs together, finding Emma in what would become the master bedroom. The corner windows offered a stunning view of the Seattle skyline, and beyond it, the Sound. "This is where your big bed will go," Emma declared, spinning in the empty space. "And my room will be next door, and we'll have breakfast together every morning and read stories every night and—" She stopped suddenly, her face going serious in that way that always meant she was processing something important. "What is it, Sweet Pea?" Lauren asked. "Is this really real?" Emma's voice was small. "Not just a visit? Not just a sometimes thing?" Ethan knelt before their daughter, taking her small hands in his. "It's really real, Princess. We're building our forever home right here." "But what about the mean papers? The ones that made you fight?" Lauren touched the charms at her throat, feeling their weight, their promise. "Those papers were about fear, baby. About grown-ups being scared of hoping too much, but sometimes—" She met Ethan's eyes. "Sometimes you have to be brave enough to hope anyway." Emma considered this, then reached for Lauren's necklace, examining each charm with careful fingers. "It tells our story?" "It does." Ethan pulled another tiny charm from his pocket, a perfect silver star. "And I got this one for you, because you're the light that guided us back together." As he added the star to the necklace, Lauren watched, their daughter's face light up with joy. 5 months ago, she would have run from this moment, from the weight of all it promised. But now, a noise from downstairs interrupted her thoughts. Russell appeared in the doorway, looking apologetic. "Sorry to interrupt, but the architect's here with the final plans. And Lauren, your mother just arrived." "Grandma." Emma raced for the stairs, her footsteps creating that musical pattern again. Lauren's mother stood in the entrance, looking around with approval. "Well, well. When you told me you were combining a coffee shop and psychology practice, I thought you'd both lost your minds. But standing here—" She smiled. "It feels right." "Mom." Lauren hugged her tightly. "Thank you for coming to help with the move. Did you really think I'd miss this?" Her mother touched the charms at Lauren's throat. "Finally. He's been carrying those around for 5 years, you know. Called me every time he added a new one." Lauren turned to Ethan in surprise. "You kept in touch with my mother?" He shrugged, looking sheepish. "Someone had to tell me if you were okay." And she never lost faith that we'd find our way back. Because I raised my daughter to be brave, her mother said simply, even if sometimes she needs a reminder of what brave looks like. The architect arrived then, spreading blueprints across a makeshift table. They gathered around, Emma perched on Ethan's hip as he explained the renovations. The coffee shop would expand, adding a cozy mezzanine level for readers and writers. Lauren's practice would have its own entrance, with a separate waiting room designed to feel like a living room, and upstairs. We kept the original hardwood floors, the architect explained, but opened up the space for modern family living. The master suite has a sitting room that could double as a home office. The second bedroom has built-in bookshelves for Emma's growing library. And this corner, he pointed to the plans. We thought this would make a perfect music room for the piano. Lauren felt Ethan's arm slip around her waist as they studied their future home. Through the windows, Seattle's skyline glittered in the autumn sun. Below, she could hear the familiar bustle of the morning after's afternoon rush. When can we start? Emma asked, reaching out to trace the lines of her future bedroom with one small finger. The architect smiled. The permits came through this morning. We can begin demolition next week. Perfect timing, Lauren's mother said. The moving truck arrives Tuesday. Though I still say you should let me help with the down payment. No need, Ethan interrupted gently. The Tokyo expansion I never took. The money's been sitting in a trust fund for 5 years, waiting for something more important than corporate success. Lauren turned in his arms, seeing in his eyes the same certainty she felt in her heart. You knew? Even then? That someday I'd need it for our family? Yes. He touched the charms at her throat, some dreams you never stop believing in, even when they feel impossible. Emma tugged at their hands. Can we go get ice cream to celebrate, since our kitchen isn't built yet? Lauren laughed, the sound echoing off bare walls that would soon hold their family's memories. Ice cream sounds perfect, sweet pea. As they headed downstairs, Emma creating her musical steps, Lauren's mother pulled her aside. You know what this is, don't you? She nodded toward Ethan, who was showing Emma how contractors' measurements worked. This is your second chance at forever. Lauren touched the winged heart charm, feeling its steady weight against her skin. No, she said softly. This is our first chance at forever. We just had to grow into it. Outside, Seattle's eternal rain had begun again, tapping against windows that would soon frame their family's view of the world. But this time, Lauren wasn't running from the storm. This time, she was building shelter within it. 1 year later, the morning after Family Center hummed with life on its grand opening morning. Sunlight streamed through the restored Victorian windows, casting warm patterns across the expanded coffee shop's hardwood floors. The scent of fresh coffee and newly painted walls mingled in the air, while excited voices filled every corner of the transformed space. Lauren stood at the top of the musical stairs, now intentionally tuned to play a perfect scale, watching the dream they'd built come to life. The coffee shop below had doubled in size, with the new mezzanine level, creating intimate reading nooks among the bookshelves. Her psychology practice on the second floor perfectly balanced professional comfort with home-like warmth. And upstairs, Mommy, Emma's voice carried from their family apartment. Daddy says it's almost time. Lauren climbed the rest of the stairs, each step chiming its familiar melody. She found Emma in her room, twirling in the special dress they'd chosen together, midnight blue with tiny silver stars, matching the charm on Lauren's necklace. Ethan stood in the doorway of Emma's room, looking devastatingly handsome in his charcoal suit. His eyes softened as they landed on Lauren in her cream silk dress. Ready? He asked softly. Lauren touched the charms at her throat, now joined by new additions. A tiny house for their home, a musical note for Emma's piano lessons, a microscopic tool set for the renovation that had brought them together. Almost. She smiled at their daughter. Emma, sweet pea, can you get the special box from my dresser? Emma bounced away, returning with a small package wrapped in coffee-colored paper. Is it time for Daddy's surprise? She asked excitedly. Almost. Lauren took Ethan's hand, leading him to the music room where his piano now sat beside floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. But first, I need to tell you both something. She sat them on the piano bench, Emma squeezed happily between them. Through the window, she could see guests arriving for the grand opening celebration below. Friends, family, patients, and coffee lovers all coming together to celebrate this new chapter. 1 year ago, Lauren began, we stood in an empty building and dared to dream of something bigger than ourselves. Not just a coffee shop, not just a therapy practice, but a place where broken things could be made whole again. She squeezed Ethan's hand. Like us. Emma leaned against her father, playing with the star charm on Lauren's necklace. And now we're not broken anymore. No, sweet pea, we're not. Lauren handed Ethan the package. Which is why it's time for this. Ethan unwrapped it carefully, revealing a small blue velvet box, identical to the one he'd kept her necklace in for 5 years. Lauren? His voice caught as he opened it. Inside lay a single charm. 2 golden rings, interlinked. 5 years? Go, Lauren said softly. You planned an anniversary surprise that never happened. You wanted to ask me to go to Tokyo, to build a future together. She took a deep breath. Now I'm asking you to stay right here, to continue building this future we've created, to make official what our hearts have known all along. Emma's eyes widened as she understood. Mommy, are you asking Daddy to marry you? I am. Lauren's voice trembled. Because some dreams are worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth being brave enough to believe in, even when it seems impossible. She met Ethan's tear-filled eyes. What do you say? Ready for the next chapter of our story? Ethan's answer was to pull her close, kissing her with 5 years of longing and 1 year of renewed hope. Emma squealed between them, clapping her hands. He's saying yes, Mommy, just like in my drawing. They broke apart laughing as their daughter dug through her dress pocket, producing a carefully folded paper. It was her drawing from a year ago, the one of their sad separate lives and happy united future, but she'd added to it. Now there were wedding bells above their smiling figures, and music notes and cups of coffee, and books, and all the symbols of their shared life. I knew it would happen, Emma declared proudly. I knew we just needed time to fix everything. Ethan lifted the charm from its box, carefully adding it to Lauren's necklace. Time and courage, and a very wise little girl who never stopped believing in happy endings. A knock at the door interrupted them. Russell stood there, grinning. Sorry to break up the moment, but your guests are arriving and... He winked at Emma. The special surprise is ready. They made their way downstairs, Emma practically vibrating with excitement. The coffee shop had been transformed for the grand opening celebration. Fairy lights twinkled among the bookshelves. Tables held elaborate coffee and pastry displays, and in the center of it all, a coffee cup cake, Emma announced proudly to the gathered crowd. Because Daddy's coffee brought us back together. The towering creation was a masterpiece. Tiers of cake designed to look like stacked coffee cups, complete with edible steam spiraling upward. Around its base, coffee beans made of chocolate spelled out, "The morning after forever." Lauren's mother stepped forward, hugging them all. Well, did she ask? Did you say yes? Was there ever any doubt? Ethan pulled Lauren closer, their daughter secure between them. The celebration that followed was everything they'd dreamed of and more. Patients mixed with coffee lovers, sharing stories of healing and hope. Children played in the specially designed corner, their laughter mixing with the piano music that drifted down from the mezzanine where a local jazz trio played. As evening fell, Ethan led Lauren to the center of the room. May I have this dance, future Mrs. Walker? Only if you promise to make me coffee every morning for the rest of our lives. Even though you still can't tell a latte from a cappuccino? Especially because of that. They swayed together as the music softened, watching Emma demonstrate her musical stares to a group of amazed children. Through the windows, Seattle's lights began to twinkle on, matching the fairy lights above. "Look," Emma called, pointing to the sky visible through the mezzanine windows. "A shooting star! Make a wish!" Lauren touched the charms at her throat, each one a chapter in their story, leading to this moment. "I think we've had enough wishes come true for one lifetime." "Never," Ethan whispered, pulling her closer. "We're just getting started." Above them, the restored Victorian chandelier cast warm light across their gathered community. The scent of coffee and fresh beginnings filled the air, and on the wall behind the main counter, Emma's original drawing hung in a place of honor, a reminder that sometimes the greatest stories aren't about never falling apart. They're about having the courage to rebuild, together. Outside, Seattle's eternal rain began its gentle symphony against the windows. But inside the morning, after Family Center, love had finally found its forever home, and this time nobody was running away. They were all running toward something better, a future built on trust, healing, and the kind of love that gets stronger with every morning after. Emma's voice rose above the celebration, clear and certain. And they all lived happily ever after, with lots of coffee. Lauren and Ethan's laughter joined their daughters, the sound echoing off walls that had witnessed their journey from broken to whole, from fear to courage, from running away to finding their way home. Because sometimes the best stories don't end with the end, they end with the beginning. And this was theirs. 5 years later. The musical stairs chimed a familiar melody as tiny feet raced up them, followed by the more measured steps of a now 9-year-old Emma. "Slow down, Christopher," she called to her 4-year-old brother. "The piano lesson isn't going anywhere." Lauren looked up from her therapy notes at her desk in the family room, smiling as her children passed. Through the open windows of their third-floor apartment, the sounds of the morning after Family Center drifted up, the hiss of espresso machines, the murmur of conversations, the gentle piano music that now played daily in the coffee shop below. 10 years. A decade since she'd run away. Half that time since she'd run back. The center had flourished beyond their dreams. The coffee shop had won local awards for its community programs, book clubs, music nights, and the special healing hearts gatherings where Lauren's patients could process their therapy in a safe, casual space. Her practice had expanded to include 3 other therapists, specializing in family healing and childhood trauma. "Mama," Christopher's voice carried from the music room. "Come listen." Lauren set aside her work, following the sound of piano notes, some confident, some hesitant, to find her son perched on Ethan's lap at the piano, his small fingers finding their way through Twinkle, Twinkle. Emma sat beside them, offering patient guidance to her little brother. "Look who's finally awake," Ethan said softly, nodding toward the bassinet in the corner. Lauren moved to peek at their youngest, 2-month-old Grace, named for both Emma's middle name and the grace that had brought their family back together. The baby slept peacefully, one tiny hand clutching the specially made charm from her siblings, a miniature piano with 3 small stars, representing all 3 children. "Did you tell them?" Lauren asked Ethan, touching the ever-growing collection of charms at her throat. "Tell us what?" Emma looked up from the piano keys. Ethan pulled an envelope from the piano bench. "Remember that story you wrote for school? About our family?" Emma nodded. She'd written about their journey, about separation and reunion, about coffee shops and musical stairs, about the courage to believe in second chances. "Well," Ethan continued, opening the envelope, "a children's book publisher wants to turn it into a real book, with illustrations and everything." Emma's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really?" Lauren confirmed. "They think other children have separated." Parents need to hear stories of hope, stories about families that find their way back together. Christopher, not fully understanding but catching the excitement, pressed a triumphant chord on the piano. The sound woke Grace, who didn't cry but simply opened her eyes, taking in her family with that peaceful awareness that reminded Lauren so much of Emma at that age. "Our story's going to be a real book," Emma whispered, moving to peer down at her baby sister. "Did you hear that, Gracie? Now everyone will know about the magic stairs and Daddy's coffee shop and how love can fix broken things. Lauren felt Ethan's arms slide around her waist as they watched their children. Emma explaining the future book to Grace with elaborate hand gestures. Christopher still picking out careful notes on the piano. "Any regrets?" Ethan murmured, against her ear. Lauren touched the original charm bracelet, the coffee cup, the key, the book, and the winged heart. Each one now tarnished with time, but more precious for it. Like their love, made stronger by the breaking and rebuilding. "Only that I wasted 5 years being afraid," she answered honestly. "Not wasted." He turned her gently to face him. "Those years made us who we needed to be for each other. For them." Through the windows, Seattle's skyline glittered in the dusk. Light. Below, the evening crowd at the morning after hummed with life. Their family's heartbeat spread across 3 floors of dreams made real. "Mama, Daddy, look!" Christopher had managed a complete scale, his face bright with accomplishment. "I did it!" "The musical stairs next," Emma declared, settling Grace more securely in her arms. "Every walker needs to learn the family song." Lauren leaned into Ethan's embrace, watching their children, the one who had brought them back together, the one who had sealed their joy, and the newest one who represented all their future mornings. Some might say their story had ended with their wedding in the coffee shop 5 years ago, surrounded by books and fairy lights and the scent of fresh beginnings. But really, that had just been another beginning, because love, like coffee, was best served fresh every morning. And they had a lifetime of mornings yet to come, together. If you had found suspicious messages on your loved one's cell phone, like Lauren, would you have done anything differently? Would you have confronted the situation, or like her, would the fear of reliving past traumas also have made you run away without seeking answers? Think. How often the fear of getting hurt causes us to lose precious years of happiness. Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.